Hey, what's up everybody? Tyler Boufford here and welcome back to another video and welcome to my channel 100 Day Hustle, where I teach you guys how to turn your side hustle into your full-time income. Because if I can do it, you can do it too. So let's together master this weird little thing called social media and the internet and make it work for us instead of us working for it. All right, so in this video, this is going to be this was actually a highly requested video, and I wanted to get right into it. It's going to be a little bit longer than normal, I think, because there's a few things I got to go through. But I'm actually going to share with you the pros and cons between being a full-time reseller and running a full-time digital marketing agency. So again, it's going to be a little bit long. I strongly advise you to stay throughout because I'm going to drop lots of pro tips and just advice that I think you guys are going to find extremely valuable. So as always, I just ask that you subscribe to this channel because I'm really trying to push out as much valuable content and helpful and useful content I can for you guys. So all I do is ask for you to subscribe. If you want to leave a comment down below, give me some pointers or just what you guys would like or like it, that's fully up to you. But the only thing I ask is just subscribe so I can give you guys more valuable content. So without further ado, let's hop right into this. All right, so we're going to start with reselling, the pros and cons of reselling, because ultimately that's what I first started with until I segued into the actual digital marketing agency. So the number one pro when it came to reselling was there was low barriers to entry, if any. There was almost no barrier to entry. I started reselling on eBay. I had to go ahead and create an account, and I had to find items to list. And ultimately, I shopped around my house, not even kidding. I shopped around my house and just started looking up stuff, books, keyboards, electronics, old VCRs, old video games, old clothing, lamps, you name it, whatever the case may be. I started looking up old wallets. Actually, I think one of the first things I sold on there was an old Ralph Lauren polo wallet, like a leather wallet. I sold for like $19. It was something brand new. Somebody I think gifted me. I shouldn't be saying this. And that's actually another tip or another side note here. I'm actually recording this in the middle of an electrical storm or thunderstorm, whatever you want to call it. And I'm doing it on my smartphone, my iPhone 10. And I've got you guys on airplane mode just so there's no connectivity to the electrical outlets. And I'm recording the audio on its own independent audio source. The only thing that's connected up to the electrical grid right now is the lighting I got going on. So I'm running a super busy schedule as always, and I gotta push through these. I gotta make this free content for you guys. It's awesome, and I've actually got a couple of calls with potential clients lined up after this. So I'm just pushing through. That's the mode of the hustle. But anyways, moving on. Where was I? Pretty much little to no barrier to entry. And I'm actually going to jump into pro tip number 2 because I don't remember where I left off there for a second. But it's actually low investment. There was little money I needed to invest in. And technically, there's none. I mean, you can start shipping with free USPS supplies. You can just go to USPS.com and look for their shipping supplies. They'll give it to you for free if you use their services. I think the only really thing I needed to do was shipping tape, and that was just a couple bucks, and maybe a camera. We all have smartphones with cameras on them. Take a picture of the item you want to list on eBay and just start going. So 1 and 2 is low barrier to entry and little to no startup cost. Tip number 3 was excellent profits for me. Now I kind of went on a different path than most resellers go. While I did primarily sell used electronics, or excuse me, used goods. I'm getting ahead of myself here. While I did primarily sell used goods, I primarily sell used electronics. And what I did, I hit it from a little bit different angle. While I see most resellers on social media, they'll go out there and they'll try to acquire the goods or their inventory from somebody already selling it, whether it be Goodwill, somebody else. Whereas I learned how to market myself, position myself in the market, and say, I'll pay you guys cash for this stuff, XYZ. And I actually primarily focus on reselling smartphones because in my mind, I'm thinking, everyone I know has a smartphone. Even my grandmother and grandfather, who are 80-something years old, have a smartphone today. So I was trying to appeal to the masses, saying, I will pay you guys cash for your smartphones. And then from there, I can upsell, say, I'll buy your guys' used clothes, knickknacks, VCRs, you name it. You can just go on from there. But I actually learned how to acquire a lead by putting advertisements out there stating, I'm going to pay you guys cash for your smartphones. And then I get them to call me or contact me. And then it was my job to negotiate the price that I knew I could buy their device for and then resell it. So that actually left me, most of the time, my profit margins were between 50 and 70%. And I really wouldn't go below 40% profit margins. Ultimately, I would end up usually tripling or quadrupling my money on an actual sale because I would upsell them. Once I acquired their smartphone, their laptop, their tablet, their electronic that they came to me for, saying this, thinking this guy buys electronics, I would upsell them, say, hey, I'll buy your video games, I'll buy your what else, your Coach or your designer purses, old used sneakers, heck, even plush teddy bears, you name it. If it had valuable assets, or if it was, let me rephrase that, if it was valuable for me to sell on eBay, after I acquired the customer to sell me their phone, and I could just upsell them, bring this, that was just free money. They weren't even thinking about selling me the phone when they call, or the additional material or items when they called me. That's just free. It's like, I'll also buy this, because 90% of the time those people, they saw my advertising and they knew that I had cash and they needed the money. So me being able to upsell them was just more money in my pocket. And I know I went off on a little bit of a tangent there, and we're still only in the beginning here. But pro tip number 4 is no team was needed. I didn't need to hire anybody just to do easily $5,000 to $10,000 a month profit. I could do it all myself. It was just, just getting the leads. It was consistency more than having to hire a team. You can easily manage selling smartphones for 40% profit and do pretty well yourself. And then you're starting to learn, how to do tablets, how to do smartphones, other electronics, modems, drones, DSLR cameras. You'll learn all that stuff as you grow. And it's the ticket price, the sales price point on those items were so juicy, you didn't really need to handle anybody. So just selling 1 or 2 items, you were making more than going out and then just learning how to resell fashion and clothing, which in my opinion, that market is extremely saturated. And I'm a little bit of a hypocrite there because I love saturation in the market, but in my opinion, that the used clothing market was so incredibly saturated. It was hard for me to diversify myself into the market and make myself better than everybody else, because at that point in time, it was more volume than it was anything else. So I always advise people to enter a saturated market and diversify yourself, learn where the weak points are of your competition, and you make those your strong points. But again, when it came to the used clothing market on eBay, which is a huge market, if you guys don't know, reselling used clothing on eBay, it is massive. My mind was blown that people were buying as much used clothes as they were. And it's not just eBay. There's tons of other platforms. There's Poshmark. I don't think you sell used clothing on Amazon. I've never even looked into that. But there's Poshmark, Mercari. There's some other ones out there I'm drawing a blank with right now. But yeah, so that was just kind of where I was with that. And number 5, because again, I'm forgetting where I left off going off on these tangents. That's just how my brain functions. But number 5 was there was 0 advertising costs. eBay actually acquires the customers. They do all the marketing for me. So there was 0, big old fat $0 in advertising cost for me, unless you wanted to promote it or something like that. But honestly, I spent $0 on eBay to sell a smartphone. And what I was doing, I was entering a market that was in such high demand. If my smartphones or electronics weren't selling, I can guarantee you I was either priced too high or there was an error in my listing, because there was just such high demand. They usually sold within a day or two. So that was extremely attractive to me being a reseller. So now those were the 5 cons. And again, I know I skipped around in order, but I'm going to go back over those. Number 1 was no barrier to entry. Number 2 was low investments. 3, excellent profits. 4 was no team needed. You can really scale this business to easily 6 figures profit yourself. And then 5, there was no actual a la carte advertising costs. Now, jumping into the cons for reselling. The cons for reselling, in my opinion, are number 1 was the marketplace fees. You get charged 10% for selling on eBay, and then 2.9% for the PayPal transaction, plus 25% for each transaction through the PayPal processor. Now, you don't have to use PayPal. There are other payment processings out there. However, 99.9% of the time, somebody's going to use PayPal to process their payments on eBay. And eBay is transitioning into their own payment processing system. I'm not too privy or up to date on that, and it's a whole nother topic I should actually educate myself on. But that was really the biggest cons for me. While they handled the advertising, the traffic, getting people to my listing. All I had to do was do it, post something. And sometimes I would those listings would sell instant because somebody had a robot on there just to buy it. And as soon as I put up an iPhone 8 Plus and in great condition with Verizon, for X dollars, it just sold. But then at the end of the month, I had to pay those marketplace fees, and they don't take the fees out right up front. So at the end of the month, after you do all your sales, you have to adjust for the 10%, the fees plus the PayPal will take their fees out instantly. But that was something you had to adjust for. You had to pay that invoice after all your sales were done. So that was a con for me. Con number 2 was actually having to manage inventory. Now, I didn't have 10,000 items listed on eBay. I didn't have some huge warehouse. In fact, the majority of my operation was ran out of this small office. I think I'm like 12 feet by 14 feet in this office. I forget, which is a shame because I just claimed it on my taxes when it came to the filing a month ago. But I think I'm like 12 to 14. Don't quote me on that. But again, you can house easily $100,000 plus in valued inventory of smartphones, because we all know how big a freaking smartphone is. You can easily house those in a very small space. But it was, again, you had to manage it. If you had a lot of listings, it got a headache. And sometimes older listings, because I would acquire just odds and ends off of people. They're like, oh, I can sell you this. Like, I'm trying to think of some weird stuff I've gotten from people. I've gotten some pretty outrageous stuff, and I'll just buy it. I'll literally give them 25 cents for something. I'm thinking, I'm going to make profit off the smartphone I acquired from them, or the camera I acquired from them. What's 25 cents? If it sells for $20 in the next month, hey, that's profit in my pocket. If not, I'll just donate it and wash my hands. But I started diversifying a little bit too much when I'm just acquiring all the stuff, and I did set strict rules on what it would be. If I couldn't sell something within 30 days, I would discount it every week, and at the end of 1 month, it was gone. It was out the door. So that was con number 2 for me. It was actually having to manage the inventory, and then the shipping and receiving department, having to physically handle that. That was very time consuming on my end, and I didn't want to train anybody else to do that. And when I went away on vacation, I actually had to do that. I had to have somebody fulfill my orders, or either risk putting my store on vacation mode. So con number 3 was limited control. Because I was not acquiring the customer data, there's only so much I can do within eBay or Amazon or whatever selling platform I was selling on. I had to sell within their terms and services to remain, an ethical reseller on their platform. So there's very limited control on there. I couldn't retarget them. I didn't have the customer data. I couldn't sell that customer data. Not that I do, but that's something very attractive when you want to talk about scaling to a multi-million, if not billion-dollar business. You really want to have control in your hands. Ultimately, you want to think, put yourself in the shoes as a business owner as eBay. If I owned eBay, what would I be doing with this? So I'm actually a contractor selling on eBay or Amazon. You want to start thinking like those agencies as you scale up your business. And when you're selling through an agency, through a platform, not an agency, when you're actually selling through a platform, there's a bottleneck there because you have to operate through their guidelines. And again, that was a big con in my opinion. There's little control I could do when it came to scaling in that method. Con number 4, and I touched on this in the limited control, is not having the customer data. When somebody purchased through me, yes, you can see whose name it was, their address, their email address, but through the terms of service, you could not remarket those people and have that customer data. And eBay and Amazon are very good at finding out if you are taking that data. They spend a lot of money to acquire that customer to get them to buy on their platform, which through third-party fulfillment such as us when we're reselling on there. You can't go out and put those people through your own marketing platform. So that in my opinion was the hugest con to me, because I knew the value of having customer data, providing value to almost essentially what I'm doing to you guys. These videos, these are time consuming videos. I'm really trying to drop it, so I couldn't take my customers' data and then let them know who I was as a company. So that was a con for me. And number 5 con when it came to reselling was actually, it got boring after a while. It was very repetitive. it was day in, day out, the same thing, like clockwork. I would get up, I would have to make sure ads were posted. I would do them myself in the beginning, and then I can hire an assistant. They had to post these ads. Then you start getting leads. Every day you had to handle with leads, and it was almost like there was like 3 to 4 different types of leads I would acquire from people. I was just somebody was just happy. They just wanted to sell their phone or their device. They could care less how much I paid them within reason. There was somebody that was like a hardball negotiator. They just, they wanted to beat you up. They wanted to get an absurd amount of money, more than I would be able to get selling on eBay. They wanted like $1,000 for like an iPhone 6 or something crazy. And then there was just somebody who I had to talk to my wife. They're on the fence. They're shopping around. They're never shopping around. But it was the same thing day in and day out. You start to know the types of leads you get. The same thing. You're dealing with the same customers on eBay. You're saying the same repetitive thing. You're shipping out. You're acquiring the phones. You're having to go out and pick them up. So it was very, very repetitive for me. And it got kind of boring. So I know I'm rambling on here a little bit, but we're actually going to hop into we're going to hop into the advertising agency side of it. My biggest pro when it came to advertising on that was being able to literally work from my laptop anywhere with an internet connection. So that was huge. That's why I got into reselling, because I'm like, oh, I'm working from my laptop. But then when it came to me acquiring the inventory, I didn't sell new goods or replenishable goods because I wanted those big, fat, juicy margins. So I actually had to go out there and meet the people. And 9 times out of 10, I would have them come to me as close as they could. But I literally had to go, leave the desk, close up, go out there, make sure I had the cash on me, and meet the customers. So when it came to the actual advertising agency, it's 100% on my laptop, unless I go out there to be face-to-face with the client, which I do because I want them to know there's an actual person behind the agency. Pro number 2 for having a digital marketing agency was I love the value I provided to people. Now, I've been hustling online trying to figure out the next billion-dollar ideal since, it's been almost 7-8 years. I've never quite figured out when exactly I started. But I've learned a tremendous amount of information. I've fallen a bunch of times. I've had a bunch of hiccups and not big successes, and I've had some very, very decent successes online. And what I've learned over the years, I love sharing with other business owners and providing them that value and then watching their business grow. And to me, that makes it all worth the while, just because I love helping others. And that actually aligns with my mission statement. And in any of the businesses I have the same exact mission statement. And that is to help and be a positive impact to the most amount of people possible. So whether I'm doing this with the 100-Day Hustle and helping you guys, or I'm helping people consulting with reselling or their digital marketing needs for their company, my number one mission statement is I'm going to positively impact the most amount of people as possible. And that's always my thing. So that is pro tip number 2. And then that allows me to do that. And both of them were kind of aligned with that. But that was really what I love to do, is actually seeing that business grow based on the work me and my team have put into their advertising and marketing campaigns. So pro number 3 we're on. I know this is a long video. I appreciate you guys for bearing with me, but you're going to get a lot more sales, and these sales are a lot juicier. It's not uncommon to have a $5,000 or $10,000 payday with these, and sometimes even more. We've had 6-figure paydays, but that's more so on the affiliate marketing side of things. That's completely different than running an actual advertising agency. Those are commission checks. Those big 5- and 6-figure paydays. We're gonna leave those over here. It's a whole nother ball game there. But when running digital advertising as a service, it's not uncommon to charge someone $5,000 a month or $10,000 to $15,000, not a month, but as a service. If you're privy enough and educated and you have the resource to build a full-on fledged website, that's where you start getting into those big paydays. But with those bigger pay advances, I'm kind of getting to one of the cons. I'm getting ahead of myself here. There's a lot more responsibility, and I'll get into that in a moment. So that was pro tip number 3. You're going to see a lot bigger payments. They're not a few $100s. You're easily going to be getting thousands of dollars a month. But again, with bigger payments, there's a lot more responsibility. You need to deliver on what you sold or what you advised those services that you're charging that much money for. So it isn't all easy. You're just like, oh, hey, I'm going to do this. Give me $5,000. No siree. You better work for that money and prove, there's going to be a price and a value perceived You need to be able to justify that when we're charging that kind of money. But as you guys get good, as you get going, you easily can see, 20 people pay you $1,000, $2,500 a month, $5,000 a month, depending on what you're doing. And then sometimes you can upsell if they need a whole website redone or email marketing. You can easily get into the $10,000, $15,000 mark there. So again, a lot bigger sales you're going to see in the agency side. So pro tip number 4. And again, this kind of jumped back to adding value to people, but you're going to grow very big networks. So when you're actually genuinely providing value to these agencies, they're going to refer you to their buds. If you're doing like doctors or something, doctors are part of usually an academy or an agency where they get together, share best practices, and they scale their businesses. If you're providing very good services to one dentistry, they're going to go around. Now, is my policy not to run ads for competitors? So if I'm working with one agency, I won't run ads with the direct competitors. Now, if they refer them to me, it's all game. Obviously, we're on the same page there. That's just my best practice. And I think I do tell them, like, look, I'm not going to run ads, because ultimately I'm competing against myself. I'm running ads for this agent or this dentist and this dentist in the same exact city. I'm competing for the same customers essentially. So that's nothing I do, but I love the relationships you get. I mean, ultimately, you become friends with the people you do business. You get to know their family. You get to know their kids. You get to know their network. It's a beautiful thing. And where reselling it was not so much unless it was 100%. It was, friends I've made online. And number 5, a pro, was I was not a commodity. When it came to reselling, the market set the value of the item I was able to sell. Unless I did something outrageous to the item, like an iPhone 10 dipped in solid gold, that's going to sell a lot higher than something else, but then the market's going to go a lot down. Who's going to buy a solid 24 karat gold iPhone 10? I'm just going off the mind there. But when it comes to an agency, you're not a commodity. You can charge whatever you want. If I was Gary Vee, I could charge $100,000 for these services because there's value perceived to that. I've proven myself. People just want to work with me because I'm Gary Vee. Whereas I'm me, I know what I've done. I know what I've accomplished. So I can put those larger price tags. I don't care what the competition's doing. I know what I bring to the table. And I'm very stern and very adamant and very dedicated to what the value I can bring to your company. So you better believe I am 100% behind the sticker price that I put on there. And honestly, I still think I'm undercharging for some of the services I do. But I understand there has to be that, again, going back to the value perceived. So now let's go ahead and hop into cons. When it comes to running a digital advertising agency, one of the biggest cons that I've come across is there is massive commitment behind it. When it came to reselling, I could easily do part-time and hit $5,000 to $10,000 in sales a month just because it was very systematized. And when it comes to running a digital marketing agency, I often find that I work a lot more, but it feels a lot less like work. I don't know I hope that makes sense to you guys, but it requires a tremendous amount of commitment. It really does. I mean, you really have to add value to these people. You're charging a high ticket service and you want to get their business. You want to be able to justify that price by showing that you are giving them that value. So that's a con. Like I said, I'm working a lot more, but it feels like I'm working a lot less. I hope that makes sense to you. It's really hard for me to explain, but I guess that's kind of a con because I am logging more hours behind the laptop. But again, I can literally be doing it down there on the couch, in the backseat of an Uber or a Lyft, whatever the heck you want to do. Airport. It's just as long as I got a laptop and a connection, I am good to go. Another con, and this could be a pro or a con, but it is a long-term play. For the first year, you're really going to struggle to get consecutive clients because you're going to fail. You're going to say, I'll do this. And then you're going to go ahead and do, after a month, they're like, hey, I paid you this much for the month and you didn't show me what the results. And then you're gone. You're out the window. They're on to somebody else. You're going to give them a bad taste. You're going to go through that. And I've gone through that with clients. And I quickly learned, and I didn't sell this. I actually was selling myself up short. But when I tell my clients, when you sign with me, I only do a month-to-month commitment because I don't want anyone locked in there because I do stand behind the value I'll bring to their business. But it takes a solid 3 to 6 months to truly reap the benefits of this. Yes, you're going to see a little hike in the first 30 days of me doing this, and that might go down, but it's a long-term play, both for you working with the business as well as you scaling this agency, because you're going to usually start local. You're going to start with people businesses you've known. You're going to go local, a little bit, outside your region. Then you want to go national, and ultimately, if you're going to be in this for a long time, you want to work with big national brands, Mercedes, Jeep, Pepsi, Apple. You want to be doing those large NFL, any of those types of things. So it is a long-term play depending on how big you want to get. And then the next one I really have for you guys is just dealing with the clients. When you say you're going to improve their business and their business isn't going how they want it to be, and they're paying you to improve the business, they're going to come back to you. And clients can be a little bit of a hassle, but that's a con. It was the same con for when it came to reselling. Ultimately, you have to deal with the customer. In this case, you're actually dealing with the client. The only difference is they're paying you a lot more money, and they want to know where that money is going. So they might be, not everyone's like this, but it's something you got to take time out of your day. Be transparent with what the money is that they paid you, where it is going. So I know I rambled on a little bit in this video, but I hope that was helpful. Please, thank you. If you stayed to the end, make sure you are subscribed to this, and I will see you guys in the next video.